Now, using a mobile phone while driving is illegal, and being caught doing so can incur hefty fines and points on your licence. Despite this, thousands of drivers are prosecuted each year for using their devices while behind the wheel. Now, according to the latest figures from the RAC report on motoring, a quarter of drivers admit to using a mobile phone while driving. And for young people, this number is almost double. Look at that, 49% of 17 to 24-year-olds surveyed by the RAC admitted using their phones. Now, stricter penalties were introduced back in 2017. This was in a bid to tackle the issue. So drivers caught using a mobile phone face a £200 fine and 6 points on their licence. But despite tougher punishments, the RAC says mobile phone use is still a major concern. Well, our reporter, Helen Astle, has been to see how one police force in Leicestershire is catching drivers in the act.
This is a police patrol with a difference, as we're in an HGV.
The advantage of being so high up is that we can literally see right into other people's cars and lorries, and you can see if people are on the phone, having a sandwich, doing their makeup, and some people haven't even got the seatbelt on. Kieran then radios through to one of his colleagues who are in police cars behind us.
It's not long before we spot another driver also on their phone. He's pulled over by one of the team.
I didn't mean to be on my phone. It doesn't. Well, it was avoidable, and I shouldn't have been doing it. It's entirely my own fault. But I'm now paying the consequences.
Jonathan's been given a fixed penalty notice, a £200 fine and 6 points on his licence. We're then back on the road again.
I think one of the worst, or one of the most unbelievable cases we came across was a lorry driver cooking his breakfast on one of those camping stoves in this centre area here. So he got a little camping stove with a gas canister on the bottom, obviously naked flame, and he was frying his bacon on a pan next to him.
While he was driving?
While he was driving, yeah.
What's surprising is the number of motorists who are either on the phone or haven't got their seatbelts on. Kieran and his colleague are generating enough work for 3 unmarked police cars behind us to stop those motorists. How common is it?
On mobile phone?
Yeah.
Oh, you could like shooting fish in a barrel. You could go out daily and just pull people over for it. And you think, well, it's not worth it, because it's now 6 points and £200 fine. So if you get caught twice, you've essentially lost your driving licence.
For these officers, they're stopping drivers several times an hour during every day of this campaign, with the aim of keeping people safe and saving lives. Helen Astle, BBC News.
Well, we're joined now by Neil Gregg from the road safety charity IAM Road Smart. Good morning to you, Neil. A striking piece there that we've just seen. How widespread do you think this problem is?
Well, the problem is unfortunately very widespread. It's 21 years, 2003, when we first had a law against the use of handheld mobile phones in cars, and yet we're still catching thousands of drivers every year. As was said in the piece there, most people going out today will see somebody using a handheld mobile phone. It is still unfortunately rife, and we need to have a review of what we're doing here, because clearly with a law that's been around for 21 years, increased penalties and so on, it's just not working. We're not getting the message across that using a handheld mobile phone is a major distraction to your driving.
And it might sound a really obvious question, but just take us through why it's so important that you don't use your mobile phone, what impact it has on your ability to safely drive.
Well, the research here is very clear. It slows your reaction times. People on a handheld mobile phone tend to drift across the lanes. They make abrupt movements when driving. It basically is a distraction to your driving, and anything that distracts you from driving on our busy roads these days is potentially going to lead to more crashes. There's an estimate of about 20 people every year being killed by someone who's using a handheld mobile phone. Now, that's probably an underestimate, because many times we don't know the phone was being used when someone's been involved in a crash.
It was quite interesting listening to that, the report, and it wasn't just about mobile phones. They were saying that they saw a lorry driver cooking his breakfast whilst driving. What are some of the things you hear about that people feel it's acceptable to do while they're at the wheel?
Well, I mean, the Operation Tramline lorries, there's 3 of them being used all across the UK. So they can turn up on any motorway at any time. They have caught some terrible things. People eating and drinking, people watching movies, people with laptops balanced on their steering wheels, driving a 38-ton lorry at 56 miles per hour. So the potential for a crash is huge in these instances. So we do like the idea of these sort of hidden lorries driving around, because we think that in actual fact the fear of being caught is the issue here. The penalties have gone up and up and up over the years, but that doesn't seem to be stopping people. People need to know that if they use a handheld mobile phone, they'll be caught, and that's where technology such as this and new roadside cameras could be the answer in the future.
OK, so looking at the figures we've got here, a couple of years ago, I think the latest figures, 2021, 6,000 drivers prosecuted for using a phone that year. We've got increased penalties, we've got undercover lorries, and yet still people are doing it. Are there other things, do you think, other ways of clamping down on it that would have real results?
I think the ironic thing is here that people aren't actually using these phones to make phone calls these days. They're scrolling down through social media. They're uploading videos of themselves doing silly things, speeding, for example. We've seen examples of that. So it's about our addiction to the mobile phone in some ways, as much as using the phone in the car to make a traditional phone call. So I think the phone companies themselves, the social media companies, could do more. They could detect the sort of illegal behavior that's being uploaded and sort of remove it right away. We also need to look at the car manufacturers looking at ways of interacting with the phone so you can't use it when you're driving along. But I mean, at the end of the day, more police would help. It's certainly, this fear of being caught has to be increased, and that must include the police and the technology companies who make the phones and the social media companies as well.
OK, Neil Gregg, thank you.